Welcome back to Southbound I-35, your stop for Texas country and red dirt music news and reviews, where you won't have to worry about those Nashville blues. I'm your host David Ryan, and before I go any further, I need to correct something I said last time. I had originally said that Aaron Copeland was at the White Elephant in Fort Worth on Sundays, and at Fat Daddy's on Saturdays, but what I didn't notice was that his calendar had the first day of the week being Monday, so he's actually at Fat Daddy's on Sundays and White Elephant on Mondays. I'm sorry for making this mistake. I will pay more attention in the future. This week I'll be covering an exciting project that was introduced to me, a road trip comedy celebrating outlaw country. I'll also be covering a few bands that I discovered from people following me on Twitter. Several people began following me before I even had my first episode up, and some of them were Texas and red dirt musicians, so I'd like to show my appreciation by at least giving them a shout out. So, sit back and relax and enjoy your cruise down Southbound I-35, the road that always takes you home. First, let's talk about the movie. It's called Buckshot, and it is currently in the process of being funded on Indiegogo. You can check out their funding page on buckshotmovie.com. The filmmaker has worked on some big-name movies before, like Office Space, and produced films for Lisa Kudrow and Melissa McCarthy. From what I've read so far, it's their way of showing their disenchantment with the current Nashville pop country trend, and a way of reminding people of the singers who weren't afraid to sing what was in their hearts and break conventions, instead of the Nashville trends of today, in which 6 chart-topping hits can be mixed together with little effort into one song that doesn't sound any different than the component parts. The story will follow a newcomer to the Nashville scene who ends up having to accompany outlaw country singer Buckshot to his final concert. But that might not be as easy as it looks. It's a southern fried twist on the road trip comedy, and the people behind it claimed they were wanting to use it to save country music. How? Well, I had a chance to talk with Joshua Smith, the writer behind the movie, and here's what he had to say.
So my name is Joshua Smith. I'm the writer and director of Buckshot. And my kind of background is I live in Los Angeles now. I actually started out in the movie business in Austin, Texas, where you actually are living right now. And I worked on big budget movies. I did Office Space, Varsity Blues. I worked on some Sandra Bullock movies. And then while I was working on those movies, then I made short films to kind of teach myself how to make movies. And I also did music videos and commercials. And I was lucky enough to work on some music videos with Willie Nelson, which was really cool. It's kind of a big highlight of mine, getting to meet him.
Awesome.
And then my second short film actually had this outlaw country legend, Freddie Fender, of the Texas Tornadoes.
Mm-hmm.
And he starred in it. And I was also lucky enough to get Augie Myers, who's also in the Tornadoes. He actually played an extra in the film, and then his son did all the music, and he was able to get Flaco Jimenez, who's like a really famous conjunto accordion player. And he actually scored some of the stuff on our soundtrack. So that was kind of my first foray into, movies and country music, kind of putting them together. But the other things after that, I kind of got away from country and did some comedies and a documentary. And now I'm coming back and doing my first feature, and that gets us to Buckshot.
Cool. Well, could you give me some background on the project? Like, what was the inspiration and what you decided to make?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it mostly comes from my love of outlaw country music. One day I was listening to David Allan Coe's The Ride. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah, just for the listeners out there that don't know the song, it's basically about David Allan Coe, like, hitchhiking, and Hank Williams Sr., or the ghost of Hank Williams Sr., picks him up. And they kind of have this conversation just about, country music in general and kind of the do's and don'ts of the business. And that's pretty loose, at least that's my interpretation. But I thought, like, what would be an awesome idea is to elongate that, and what if I myself was stuck in an RV driving Billy Joe Shaver cross country for 5 days? What could I learn from him? Like, what stories would I hear? It just seemed like a fascinating way to structure a movie. And so that's kind of the inspiration of it.
Cool. So do you say that song also inspired the character Buckshot?
A little bit. I mean, Billy Joe Shaver is kind of the biggest person that I drew from, and it's almost like his background before he became spiritual. Even though, I mean, you got to look at it, like, the guy's been married 3 times, twice to the same woman. He shot a guy in the face and got away with it. You know, I mean, these are just like, you can't even make this stuff up. But he's like one of the most incredible songwriters. But he's not really a household name. But if you trace some of those, you know, some of the most recorded country songs of all time, boom, there's his name right there. So I feel like, but Buckshot's also like, he's a badass like David Allan Coe, but he's got the coolness of Waylon Jennings, but he's also self-destructive like Hank Sr. So it's kind of like all these things mixed into one character.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So why would you say that this movie matters?
I think it matters. I really wanted to bring, well, let's go back. I'm a child of the 80s, and I remember watching movies where all of these, like, country stars, you had, like, Willie Nelson, Kenny Rogers, Chris Christopherson, like, all these guys were the movie stars of that era. And I feel like those characters, they're not in movies anymore. And that's why I decided to write the story and the script. But I also feel like it's a way to bring outlaw country back to the masses, and also a way to, you know, bring it to a brand new audience. And I say that kind of the point of the film is there's a kid, you know, struggling songwriter who thinks he's country. He's chasing after a pop country stardom, but it comes from all the wrong places, and which I believe is what's happening in Nashville today. But in the movie, you have Buckshot Thomas, who's this, like, honky-tonk legend, and he teaches this kid about what outlaw country music is, and how to make music the traditional way with heart and meaning behind it, and not just singing stuff about pickup trucks and girls in short shorts and, you know, kind of what's going on today.
Right. So what would you say you like about country music in general?
To me, as a filmmaker and a writer, I mean, I love the storytelling aspect. I mean, there's lots of other music genres that seem to drown out the lyrics, so you can kind of only concentrate on the sound. But I think country music is different. It's storytelling. And I mean, just for example, if you listen to the lyrics of Sturgill Simpson's Turtles All the Way Down, it's basically a life lesson that he learned kind of in his 20s and early 30s that got him to become the singer that he is today. It's so amazing if you really concentrate on the lyrics.
Yeah, he has some really good lyrics in all of his songs so far.
Oh, he's amazing.
So how would you define outlaw versus Nashville country?
Well, when I started researching the outlaw country music and how it came about, I mean, basically it's Waylon and Willie and, you know, some of the other artists that came up during that time. They were fed up with the Nashville polished sound, and there was all these limitations forced on them, like what they could and couldn't do. But then they all broke out on their own, and they did it their own way and the way they wanted to do it. I mean, that was kind of the birth of outlaw country. But I don't feel like any of that's going on today, which is kind of the pop music. I mean, if you talk about what's going on today as far as Nashville going off the rails, so to speak, I mean, pop songs are always going to be a part of music. I mean, any genre has pop music, and I mean, if people like pop music, that's fine, and I really don't have a problem with that. But I think that when Nashville closes all its doors to the real, true country artists with stories to tell, that's when it's gone off the rail. And I think this whole bro country hip hop thing, like, it really shocked me. I mean, one day I turned on the CMAs and I see all these people performing and wearing outfits that never in a million years would I call country artists. It just all seemed pop, bubblegum kind of stuff. I mean, it seemed like everything changed overnight, and I know that's not the way it happened, but I mean, since I don't follow the pop country, maybe I just was naive and didn't know. But yeah, when I started doing research, it just really shocked me, and that's where I kind of started to root the story and the movie to kind of not rail against it, but kind of teach people a different way.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. I honestly, some of the pop country I do like, and I think it's okay if it's the artist's decision themselves. I think it's mainly the producers who are making people do a lot of things. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, and I also think I heard this great, not to send people to another podcast, but I heard this podcast with Joe Rogan and Sturgill Simpson. And Sturgill was talking about how in the 80s when the hair metal band started hitting, that all those producers just kind of flipped all the other rock and roll people into hair metal bands. And that was kind of their heyday. Well, all of those producers, when that dried up, they all moved to Nashville. So
really?
And so if you some of the songs and the lyrics and different things kind of, have that similar style. I mean, maybe that's where this pop country thing went, or how it started. But yeah, that was his take. Yeah, that was his take on it. It was pretty interesting. I never really thought about it that way.
Me neither.
But I have to say too, to be honest, there's a pop country song by Mo Pitney. Have you heard any of his stuff?
Yeah.
It's one pop song I really like. He does this one called "Clean Up on Aisle 5." Mm-hmm. Now here's a kid who sings the most sappy, laughable lyrics. I mean, it actually has the word Cheerios in it. But his conviction, it's almost impossible to pull off, but he does it, and it's amazing. And if you're going to check out that song, watch the video. I think there's one of him doing it at the Grand Ole Opry. Don't just listen to the song. Because when you see how reverent he is to that song, to the lyrics, it totally shines through and makes it a unique, song that I think it could win anybody over. So, yeah, that's one of my guilty pleasures for sure.
Cool. So that's Clean Up on Aisle 5?
Yeah, Clean Up on Aisle 5. You should check it out.
I'll check that out. So are there any other Nashville artists that you like?
I like Nikki Lane, Sturgill, Whitey Morgan, Jamie Johnson. That's kind of all that comes off the top of my head right now. But yeah, I think there's a whole new movement coming, and I really want that's what the movie's all about, is kind of supporting those artists as well. I'm not a purist. Part of listening to music and what makes it great is discovering new artists, and I think when I heard Sturgill Simpson for the first time, it just blew my mind. And I think we have to, keep that going in Nashville and give people like you and I, new artists that we can discover.
So have you heard much of the Texas and Red Dirt scene?
I mean, I'm a Texan and a Longhorn fan, so it makes me tough to root for anything from Oklahoma. But in all seriousness, I don't really know that much about the Red Dirt artists, and I don't think it's any kind of thing against them. I'm just a creature of Texas music. I mean, I live there. It's also the songwriters there alone make it a heaven for me. I mean, Ray Wiley Hubbard, Robert O'Keefe, James McMurtry, his new album is awesome. And when I lived there, I got to see a lot of these guys on stage, which brings a whole new appreciation to their music. And I like there's other, have you checked out Mike and the Moon Pies? They're in Austin?
No, I haven't yet, no.
Yeah, check them out, man. They're really good. They're kind of like early Dwight Yoakam with a mix of George Strait. They put on a really good show as well. Definitely
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, they're awesome. Oh, and I like Hayes Carl and, now I'm blanking on this guy, Aaron. Shoot. I can't think of his name right now. Say it again?
Aaron Watson?
It's not Aaron. I love Dale Watson. Adam Carroll. That's who it is. Adam Carroll's a great songwriter. Kind of he sounds a little similar to Hayes Carl.
Okay.
But he's really good as well.
I'll have to check him out too.
Yeah, for sure.
So overall, would you say that this movie since it's going to bring a outlaw country back into the mainstream consciousness, that it would be helping save country music in that way?
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. I mean, saving it from disappearing. Mm-hmm. And I just really want to see outlaw country music get the same respect and the airtime as the pop country stuff. I mean, a great example is, right now, Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard, they have a #1 album on the chart, and most country stations won't play it because it doesn't fit in their format, which is a shame. It's a great album. It's so good, and that has to change. I mean, that's just so, and people are buying it. It's on the chart. So I don't understand the problem, So yeah, I'm hoping that, it's one of those things, and this is maybe too big of an example, but when the movie Urban Cowboy hit, there were people that just thought, cowboys were a bunch of rednecks and, their music sucked and blah, blah, blah. Then they saw it in a movie, and Travolta came in and made it cool, and it changed everything. I mean, all of a sudden, country music was just the newest thing. I mean, I remember my aunts and uncles who were from Texas, but they were not cowboys. They were they lived in the city, but all of a sudden they had cowboy shirts. They, were blasting, all this urban cowboy soundtracks on the radio. It was just amazing to see that turn around. And obviously our movie is an independent movie. It's going to operate kind of on a smaller scale, but I think it's a good grassroots, way to show Nashville and to show Hollywood that, this is stuff that we want to see and hear.
Yeah. To wrap this up, just one more question. So if you had to pick any country song to describe your life, what would it be?
I would say right now, because I'm in Los Angeles, the Lonesome L.A. Cowboy by New Riders of the Purple Sage.
Uh-huh.
I miss Texas. I miss its outlaw country music roots. That's why I'm asking all the listeners there to help me bring country music back to the big screen and help us get Buckshot movie made.
Well, thanks for coming on and talking about the movie. It sounds like it's going to be a pretty good one.
Great. Thanks so much, David. Yeah, and this podcast I think is great for all country fans out there.
Once again, that's Joshua Smith, and you can check out his funding page at buckshotmovie.com.
Once again, Buckshot is still in the funding stage on Indiegogo, so if you're interested in seeing a movie made supporting the music y'all love, please go and contribute. Like with all crowdfunding ventures, there are different rewards and perks you can get for donating various amounts. I believe $10 gets you a bumper sticker. You can check out more on this at buckshotmovie.com. And now, to wrap up the show, here's some song coverage. First up, to make further reparations for my mistake I made earlier, is Aaron Copeland's single, Going Out Tonight. It's a song about the excited anticipation of finally having some time off to spend with your significant other and how it always ends way too soon. It's got a relaxed, mid-tempo beat with instrumentation that conveys that longing to be together with one significant other. This would be a great romantic song to get people on the dance floor. Once again, you can check out more information on him at aaroncopelandmusic.com. Up next is a song by the Jack Nelson Band. Jack Nelson is from Corpus Christi and he's opened for the likes of Tracy Byrd and Bart Crow. Letterbuck is a total rock and roll throwback. After a slow, comedic intro, he goes right into talking about the exact kind of girl he's into. Full of bull riding imagery and a Conway Twitty reference, this is a catchy song that would be great listening whether you're driving or at the dance hall. You can find him touring up and down East Texas with upcoming shows at the Hobo Bar in Ellinger, Texas on July 10th, Neon Moon Club in Bay City on the 11th, and Ransom Steakhouse on the 14th. To check out his full album and further dates, check out jacknelsonband.com. And finally, a quick shout out to Red Knight. Red Knight is from Fort Worth and he wrote, performed, and produced his entire first album. You can check it out at redknight.com. That is red with 2 Ds. Well, that's going to be it for this week. Thanks for listening to Southbound I-35, the road that always leads you home. All songs used on this episode of Southbound I-35 were used with permission from their respective musicians. If you have any questions or comments about my podcast or would like me to feature your music, please email me at southboundpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/SBI35.